Hey, everybody. Very, very special episode of Seattle Sucks.
Woo!
We are here with our hockey correspondent, Marena, here to talk about for the next hour, maybe hour and a half, all things hockey in Seattle.
We got Kraken fever, my friends.
Yeah.
We're going to be talking NHL draft. We're going to be talking hockey fantasy leagues. We're going to do a special mock draft filling out the Kraken roster, and also maybe doing a little mock fantasy draft for our Seattle Sucks Fantasy Hockey League. Yeah, now that we got hockey fever, we're going to have our own hockey fantasy league. That's right, guys.
Yeah, this is going to be the place to come from now on, actually.
For all your hockey
your
news.
Kraken news.
Pivot. Yeah.
And all of your, fantasy Kraken whatever. So
We're going to be talking goalies. We're going to be talking hockey sticks.
My first question, Marena.
Yes.
What is hockey?
Hockey is that age-old sport that comes from cold areas, most notably Russia, also Canada. You know, all of those countries that have had revolution, so democratic socialism, free healthcare. Not Russia now, but, you know, the land of the...
So you're really, really right now, what you're gonna sit here and try and make some case that, like, hockey is somehow of the left?
Absolutely.
Well, as a lifelong hockey stan,
Big time
what's your team again?
San Jose Sharks.
Okay,
Yes.
I've watched a San Jose Sharks game
With
you.
me.
Yeah.
So, one, San Jose, this is a cold weather sport. Doesn't make sense.
California has 3
Sharks
hockey
don't
teams.
exist on ice. This doesn't make sense. Why are they all
No.
sea creatures? Why do we have a Kraken? Krakens are not in ice.
Yeah,
Shouldn't it be, what's an ice creature? Polar bears.
Yeah.
The polar bears, I
Penguins.
think that was penguins already exist. Yeah.
Well, we know they exist. We've been to the zoo.
Pittsburgh Penguins is already carved onto the Stanley Cup multiple times. I would like to not be reminded of
Well, as true Americans, me and Greg don't care about hockey.
Right.
But now we're going to have to become real hockey heads.
Yeah, you do.
Because
So
gotta-
how do
you
we
gotta
do
be-
that? What is
Yeah,
the
what do we
stuff
gotta
we
do?
need to know about, like, hockey in general, and, like, how to be a fan, but also, like, about the Kraken?
Well, as newly inundated crackheads,
No.
we have
That's going to be a thing, isn't it?
I know that is really
we have
unfortunate.
plenty to talk about regarding the sport. It's very brutal. It is very graceful. I actually just learned today from my best friend that apparently there was this expose for, I think it was Sports Illustrated, that William Faulkner actually wrote, only because Kurt Vonnegut turned down the job.
Is that because Kurt Vonnegut is dead?
It happened a while back. It was back when he was alive. But, you know, it is... I believe it actually does come from indigenous sports. I think they actually stole it. The Canadians actually stole it from indigenous sports.
Is Canadians invented hockey? Is it hockey Canadian? I always figured it was European or something.
Yeah, it's kind of got like this blurred... There's one painting, and I can't remember what year this painting actually is made, but it's like the earliest depiction of people playing ice hockey. And I don't even know what year it is, but I think it's like over in Europe, but it's kind of like this mishmash of, like, you know,
Do they have distinctly Scandinavian skull shapes?
probably, yeah. The cummerbunds and shit like that. Yeah.
Okay, so where were you on the great name debate, great name reveal?
I was getting ready for work. During
You'll remember where you were for
During
the
the
rest of your
pandemic.
life.
Yes.
When it was announced that the Kraken.
Yes.
Where are you on the name? You like it?
It was not my top choice. There were a lot of names that were in the running. Sockeyes was, like, I think tied for popularity with the Kraken, but we couldn't be the Sockeyes because there is a woman who has been writing hockey erotica that is based out of Seattle,
Okay.
and the team in that franchise are the Seattle Sockeyes.
All right, guys, we're now pivoting from talking about hockey to talking about hockey erotica.
Yes.
Now we finally reached
Yeah.
our
Based. Look, can we get this one
Right.
on the show?
If
We
you're
probably
listening to-
could.
Yeah, if you're listening to the show, we're going to try and find her. We're going to try and get her on
she
the show.
and she didn't. I mean, obviously, you know, she's been doing this for a long time, and she didn't want to give up her franchise. That she owns that trademark, and
Or the NHL wouldn't pay her.
Or they would, and maybe she wouldn't give it up. Like, I don't, who knows? I mean, they have the money. And Jerry Bruckheimer is the owner of the Seattle Kraken, or is like part owner or whatever. So that was also a big push for why it was going to be the Kraken.
God,
yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Like, that was like a big...
I am so sad we looked into this.
They're going to have to literally, they're going to buy the Clash of the Titans like clip to use constantly in their promos, like at the stadium. It's literally going to say release the Kraken.
Oh yeah, no, you're gonna get Sam Neill saying that. Wait, no, who is it? No, yeah, it's not Sam Neill. It's oh my God,
Liam Neeson.
Liam Neeson. That's what it is. Yeah, Liam Neeson. Yeah.
Saw it.
It's not as good as the original.
Amazing.
I'll tell you that. Well, that is
synergy. That's what that is.
He's a principal owner.
Yeah.
Of the
all
Seattle
my
Kraken.
knowledge of hockey comes from the movie The Cutting Edge, which is a romance about an ex-hockey player who can't cut it in the NHL anymore and gets into figure skating.
Yeah, it's
it's very important.
It's a serious romantic version of Happy Gilmore.
Yes.
If any 90s Disney babies are listening, I don't know if you'll remember the acclaimed Matthew Lawrence and God, what's his name? He was in Boy Meets World. Eric from Boy Meets World. H-E double hockey sticks.
Yeah.
Matthew Lawrence plays for the New Jersey Devils, and he sells his soul for the Stanley Cup.
I remember Emilio Estevez in Mighty Ducks, but I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So reportedly, this is strictly in the realm of Texas rumors. You know, I always like to bring sales tax back to Texas stories. The Dallas Stars, sure, won the Stanley Cup one year.
They have, yes.
And then apparently, whilst having the cup, partied with the famous Texas rock band Pantera and got so fucking drunk that one of them threw the Stanley Cup out of a hotel window.
Oh, it happened,
Yeah, and it apparently has like a large dent on it to this day.
There's a dent on the side from Sidney Crosby and the Penguins dropping it the night that they beat the Sharks in the fucking Stanley Cup final.
You guys can't see it. Tears are streaming down.
The only time that the Sharks have ever gone to the final.
I'm so glad that we caught this on film. We're going to turn it into a GIF. It's going to be the new GIF on Facebook.
It's terrible. And they're walking the Stanley Cup into their jet at the SJC airport, and there's a huge ass dent on the side of it because they got so drunk they fucking dropped Lord Stanley.
Why?
It's a bummer because we also had the choice of the name the Metropolitans to reinvigorate that franchise, which was like the 1917, I want to say, Seattle hockey team.
You're in San Jose.
In Seattle.
The Seattle was good.
Yeah,
okay.
the Seattle Metropolitans.
The San Jose Metropolitans.
No.
Are you serious?
Wait. In 1917, that was an aspirational team name for Seattle as well. Okay. This was not a metro. This was no metropolis in 1917.
But they won the Stanley Cup.
Town.
They won the Stanley Cup, and so if we would have revived that franchise, we would have already been Stanley Cup champions as Seattle.
Oh shit! Even though there was only like 2 teams in the league that year.
Exactly. And then it had to stop for like World War I and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So,
so I'll tell you a funny hockey story that I have. When I was in middle school, I had a friend whose mom worked at a radio station selling promotions, like selling ad space. So she used to get like free tickets to shit. And she got free tickets. San Antonio very briefly had its own like minor league hockey team. I don't understand how any of this works or anything like that.
Probably a farm team.
Small level hockey team. So we got free tickets to go see this. So we go and we watch it. And there's like 100 people. We're watching this in the fucking Alamo Dome, which is a whole other story, but an enormous dome built for a football team. And there's probably 100 people in here watching this, right? And we're all watching. Presumably, we all got free tickets. Nobody knows what's happening. And as the third period ends, the teams leave, and everybody's just in the stands. And somebody has to literally get on the intercom, like the announcer gets on the intercom, is like, in hockey, there's only 3 periods. The game is over. And everybody, you see everybody just looking at each other and just go, like, shrug their shoulders, get up, and just leave.
Oh, my God.
That's the one hockey game I ever went to.
Wow.
3 periods, 20 minutes.
Your tattoos are so deep, they really make me think.
Well, there was a big push because one of the names, like there were a bunch of all right names. I thought like good names, but there was a push, a revival for one of the team names during COVID. The whole thing about flattening the curve, and everybody staying home, and there's that joke about
Very excited for this.
Yeah, everybody. Seattle's like, Seattleites are so antisocial anyway. Like we're gonna fucking, we're gonna handle it. And
By the way, that was my personal theory going into this.
right. One of the names for the Seattle hockey team was the Seattle Freeze.
That is a good name.
I thought it would have been really good, and it was like,
Holy shit.
it was like COVID curve, like meet the Seattle Freeze, and I was like, dude, the NHL should absolutely do the fucking Seattle Freeze.
Oh fuck, that's a good name.
Yeah, but that's the thing.
a
It's
good
too
name.
good for a sports team.
Yeah.
That's just it means too much.
Yeah,
There's too many layers,
Shit.
too deep.
God, I would buy a Seattle Freeze. I'd never watch a game, but I would buy a Seattle Freeze hat just because.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, damn.
I know we missed it.
Missed opportunities. That's the story of our lives.
Well, I guess all there is left to do is write our own Seattle hockey-based erotica about the Seattle Freeze.
Yeah.
I mean,
There you
what
go.
else is there?
There we go, rival team.
All right. Welcome back to the Seattle Sucks podcast. We're back on Greg's boat, which is functioning and barely livable in this heat, but somehow we're all surviving, I guess. How's it going, Greg?
I don't appreciate when you mock my.
All right, moving on. So, we got an exciting show for you today. I promise we will only talk a little bit more about hockey for the rest of the show. If you guys love what we kept in, too bad you don't get to hear what we took out. But right up top, I'd just like to say that we got Seattle Sucks runs a printing press run by our freaks that we keep in Cullen's dungeon. And there's a couple new articles up on there, so check it out at mechanicalfreak.website. We got a Washington Sucks primary voters guide from our friend Cassidy Butler, who could be heard on the show, as well as an article called Communists Around Every Corner about China and the protests in the United States by a friend of the show, Matthew Van Dyne. So go check that out. We'll put links down in the bottom. But today, we got a good friend on the boat with us, right? We got Marena, also known as @comrade_surveys.
That's me.
On Twitter. And you're here not just to talk hockey, right?
Correct.
You're here to tell us the intense, very personal with extreme detail information about your unemployment hearing, right?
Suffice to say,
I
got
won.
that bread.
I won.
Marina got that bread.
Yeah, Marina took our advice and our legal strategy of get that bread and got that bread.
Bread Santa would be very proud.
Oh man.
Papa Kropotkin would be so proud. Stuck it to the bourgeoisie
Oh man.
and won.
Really, really did though.
Deliciously
Really
so.
The bourgeoisie tried to use the courts to fight back,
Yes.
and it turns out the bourgeoisie is very stupid.
Very. We can do this, guys. We can totally do this.
We can fucking do
If this was
we can get all the bread.
all the bread.
Yeah.
We're coming for it.
It's important to keep in your mind. I think everybody watches like Marvel movies too much and thinks everybody's like Tony Stark, but your boss is really stupid. Like, just go talk to him. Your boss is dumb.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's everybody. That's nobody in this room specifically, but everybody specifically.
Yes.
Your boss is dumb. Go talk to him. Fuck him. All right.
That's why they're never there.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
they keep this facade of being like this intelligent. If they all had Twitters like Elon Musk, you would all know how stupid they fucking are.
Yeah, the smart ones are the ones that,
low
hide in the
profile.
shadows. Yeah, and keep a low
Yeah.
profile.
They open their mouth as little as possible, and they never let you see them trying to do a real job of work, because that would reveal them as non-human monsters.
Correct.
Well, so, Marina, you're also, work in the service industry, and back at work, right, on the front lines.
Yeah, for over a month now.
And
I assume wearing the full, ET suit.
It might be better if I was. Face coverings, though. Definitely wear a mask all day. Changing gloves all the time. And I have to, any kind of movement that we as a country or as a world has, progress we have made to, reduce plastics in the landfills within these, 4 months, we've absolutely
Oh,
like destroyed any
totally
progress that
negated.
we've done. Yeah, we're
We're gonna find out like next year that COVID has doubled the size of the Great Pacific Garbage
yeah,
Patch.
Yeah,
we
it's
were
like the
at-
next continent.
We were absolutely fucked
Yeah.
on so many levels.
yeah.
Also, on-
Atlantis Rising.
Yeah.
On the Patreon episode that we just actually released to everybody on the main feed, you're welcome. We were talking about how that Governor Inslee's response has been just so heroic and thoughtful and good, and that also the the individual action that is very important that all of us are meant to take as individual actors in this economy is really clear and obvious and makes a lot of sense. And I think we agreed that everybody knows exactly what they're supposed to do in their various jobs. I assume that's the case with you at your workplace, right? Now that
Right.
we're opening back up, closing the economy, which is it? Are we on the opening trajectory or the closing trajectory? Are we going from phase 1.68 like up or down?
When you're
that right now in King County.
when you're like going into Macy's and you're afraid to like hop into the revolving door. That's where we are.
Oh.
Yeah,
No.
like it's
We're
just it's,
hesitating,
Yeah, it's
worrying
moving.
we're gonna lose a hand.
Wait, maybe I'm in it, and then you get in there. Maybe you go around a couple times before you actually like get out of it. That's where we are.
And you
Yeah.
find yourself back out on the fucking sidewalk.
Yeah, and you're like, oh, whoop, no, it's cold out here.
So yeah, I feel like it's all been crystal clear, and there's been no problems.
Absolutely not. It's just been amazing. I don't know if you know this, but COVID's over.
Yeah, if
Yeah.
you believe it so.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's totally over. Hooray! Good job.
If you will it is no dream.
Right?
Yeah.
We should just like what is his name? Bill Mitchell. He was like, let's just start ignoring it. Let's not give the media the power.
The rules.
I mean, let's be serious. That is what America's going to do. Like,
Yeah.
Bill Mitchell's right. That is what
Right.
we're going to.
Look,
That is the strategy.
Yeah, he tends to be ahead of the curve on
Just
these
like
things. That guy is a weather vane for America.
that is like the 100% American strategy. Like I love the comparisons between like this, how we're handling this, and how Vietnam is handling this, and then like the Vietnam War.
Yeah, well, so like yeah. But yeah, I mean, the Vietnam thing is interesting because I assume you're referring to the story about how they had a few cases and
0 deaths.
And just recently they had a few cases in one of their cities, and they literally evacuated 80,000 people to prevent it from
Yeah,
spreading.
they were providing like home delivered meals. Like there were people that were prepping breakfast, lunches, and dinners,
Yeah.
and like just going door to door, and so people didn't have to leave their houses.
Yeah.
Where here in America,
Yeah.
we are at a point where we're getting, according to Mitch McConnell, over his dead body, will we be getting any more government assistance? And according to Elon Musk, like another stimulus isn't isn't in
Not
the
really the best thing,
interest, And then Steve Mnuchin, Mr. I posed with a sheet of freshly printed money that you can live off of $1,200 for 10 weeks.
Yeah. Well,
So-
as Greg has opined, and I am increasingly won over to his view on this. When the original $600 was proposed, they all agreed because none of them knew how much money $600 was.
Yeah.
And similarly, Steve Mnuchin has no idea. Like he's like,
No.
you can live off $1,200. He has no idea how much money $1,200 is.
No,
Like,
absolutely not.
yeah. He's like he's never
like-
looked at a bill in his life.
He's like, that's about a down payment on a house, right?
Like Rain Man or whatever, when they ask him, like, hey, Rain Man, how much does a candy bar cost? And he's like, about $100.
yeah.
About $100.
yeah, it is that. But in more serious now, like, what are the challenges? Like, I'm working in the indispensable job of keeping bars open. What does this look like now? Like on the front lines of that.
The biggest challenge is fucking people. Like, just like hands down. So my new job that I acquired right before the shutdown is handling it, like, honestly, I like just fantastically. But when people ask me, like, oh, how is it being back at work? Like, the only answer I can give them is that it's absolutely absurd.
Yeah.
Like, I'm extremely grateful for the staff that I have at this new job, and that I'm extremely happy for the management and how they're handling it, and for the lengths that they have gone to keep us safe. But I'm still at work, and people are still coming out in droves. Like,
Been pretty busy.
yeah, which is also the other absurd thing about it is because like it's good when we're busy because that means we're like I'm making money, like I'm making more
Yeah.
tips, like
Because
and
that's where, I mean, where
right,
else are you going to get
and
it? Yeah.
especially because the opposite end now, especially with the $600 ending, is like the alternative is
Destitution.
right.
Yeah, well, and I mean, I think it shows some of the like perverse incentives that are created via the way that the United States has chosen to handle this, right?
Right.
Which is one to like kind of leave it up to the employer to basically monitor the regulations to make sure the P's and Q's are being minded or whatever. With the problem being, of course, you know, I mean, bars, restaurants, etc. They've been like eating money for months, and you know, you're gonna tell them what's the rule now? It's like supposed to be 25% occupancy or something.
Yeah, well, there.
I want to know, like, specifically what has changed. So, like, the governor has been, like, has taken a turn, as we've seen, Washington State, like everywhere else, because we decided to open up last month, COVID numbers are climbing rapidly.
Yeah, we were at 50,000 cases last week.
Back
Yeah.
to the higher than the March peak. So,
Yeah, we should make it absolutely clear. Like, the reason why COVID cases are rapidly increasing in the United States is because the United States reopened. It's because people went back to work.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's not a question. That's not
Yeah.
Yes.
a theory or
So,
hypothesis. That's a fact.
the reaction to that from the governor has been, okay, we're going to do some new different things. And what we talked about on the last talk, which should be the last episode on the feed now, is like, well, the governor's basically like, well, this is up to our individual actions. Like, be personally responsible, wear your mask, and don't, you know, go to your parties with your friends. But I'm wondering, like, he hasn't shut down bars, right? So are there new different guidelines that are more strenuous than before? Like, what are you getting at that level, on the ground level?
Last week, he rolled back some of the opening, like the phase 2 opening. So we were at a limited capacity for sure. And outdoor, indoor, a lot of the indoor seating had opened up. And we have a big enough space that's like, it's open enough to be able to space tables out 6 feet apart. And keep that social distancing. All the staff is wearing gloves, like changing them all the time. All of the staff is wearing masks. But when you come in to eat at a restaurant and drink at a restaurant, you obviously can't have your mask on. So we're having people, like a restaurant full of people. I mean, granted, it's at like less occupancy, 75% occupancy, 50% occupancy, but it's all these flapping lips that are going on.
Yeah.
And there is so much tourism that is happening right now in the city. It is absolutely disgusting. And I'll get tables. These families that are like, oh, we're from Florida, and I will subconsciously like take a step back. Families from South Carolina, we had so many people from Texas because we're one of the places that are open. People have fucking time, and we're not allowed to leave the United States.
Yeah.
So people have the time to come out, and they're like, oh, where have we never been before? Seattle, let's go there. And people are like, it's our first time here. What should we do? Or like, we're bar hopping. Where do we go next? And it's like, home. You go fucking home. Like, and I have to tell these people.
Obviously not. Bars are open. We're
Yeah.
saying this is
Exactly.
It's the mixed message, right?
Yeah.
everything is a mixed match. So wait. So you're saying, if I gather correctly, we did eventually in King County get up to phase 2,
Yes.
and then we've rolled back to like phase like 1.3
Something.
5 6.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the phase system has just fallen away at this point. Now it's just, the governor gives decrees.
An indecipherable mile-long list
Well-
of very specific.
Well,
Like,
what he does is
regulations.
he spills the guts out onto the floor, and then all our media types and politicians get in there and just fucking swirl them around and interpret them, I think is where we're at this point.
I appreciate that we don't have a governor like Florida
Yeah.
or Georgia.
We're just total denial that
Right.
it
I am
exists.
very grateful that Jay Inslee and Katie Brown in Oregon is that her? And that Gavin Newsom kind of held tight, and kind of had a unified front as much as possible. But these protocols that they're putting in place are absolutely toothless. Like and a lot.
Well, there's no message.
No, there's so much emphasis on the onus being on people like me in restaurants and like coffee shop workers and all that kind of stuff to enforce these. against the general public and them not doing it themselves, that it is, unless you have like Minority Report little like spider drones going around and monitoring everybody at all the same time, nothing is going to work. Nobody is doing what they should be doing. Like
Well, in your case, there's like nothing to enforce, right? Because like, what are you going to say? Like, everyone who comes in here must wear a mask until we deliver your beer.
Well, it's
to your table.
you come in. Well, we're using this like there's so many like we're using this hospital grade sanitizer, and we have to let it sit for 10 minutes. So we wipe down our tables with our regular sanitizer, and then we have to spray it down with this hospital grade sanitizer, and we wipe it down, and then we have to put a timer on the table and set it for 10 minutes.
What the fuck?
Yes, and so
That's total bullshit.
I'm measuring my life in between.
Yeah,
beeps,
egg timers
like
going
egg
off.
timers going off, and people come in and then they sit down, but then they want to change their seats, and so like they'll get up and they're like, oh, we want to move outside, like can we actually, or it's too hot, like can I sit inside? It's like, I mean, yeah, but okay, now I gotta fucking like sanitize your table again and like let it sit for 10, you know, and people are like, oh, can, like somebody will get up and leave. And it's like, oh, can we move out to that table that just got up? And it's like, no, we have to sanitize it and it has to sit for 10 minutes. And they're like, why? And then I have customers that are like, oh my God, I just can't believe that you have to wear a mask all day. And I'm like, yeah, I can't believe that you're here.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's like, ooh, and I was like putting gloves on and going to table. They're like, ooh, how are your hands doing? And I'm like, oh yeah, they're kind of like wrecked. And they're like, oh, like laughing, like it's disgusting. Like, and then it's the simplest thing of like, okay, obviously you're coming to a place where you need to eat and drink. Like you can't have a mask on. Like, duh. Like you cannot physically put anything into your fucking mouth if you have a mask on.
Yeah.
So we're like, we just asked that, you know, once you're at your table, you can take off your mask. If you get up and you're moving around the dining room, you know, if you need to go to the bathroom or anything, like just please put your mask on. So what people are doing are they're like, oh, I have to go to the bathroom. So they'll stand up and they'll start walking to the bathroom. And as they're walking to the bathroom, then they're putting their mask on. So they're halfway through the fucking dining room before their mask is even on. Yeah. And then we have like a really great patio. So people, of course, they want to go outside. All the tourists, they want to go outside and they want to take their pictures. But they don't want to wear their masks in their Instagram pictures. Like, I can't, for my Instagram, I can't have a mask on. Like, you know?
Yeah. Oh,
so they're crammed in between these patio tables that are distance apart, and they're like taking all these fucking pictures. And we're like, hey, like if I had $1 for every time I was like, hey, can you put your mask on? Don't forget your mask. Can you put your mask on, please? Like, it's And now with this rollback, it's people like we're already not seating people like in groups of like only max of groups of 5. Like that's it. So people will come in and they'll have like. It'll be a family of 6, and one of them's like a very young child or whatever. And we're like, we're sorry, we have to still split you up. And they just get all in a huff and get mad, you know? And and we've definitely had to kick out people that are just like, this is horse shit. Like, well, like we had to kick out these people from these fuckers from Alabama because they were just like, oh, all these regulations are bullshit. And we're like, blah, blah, blah. And we're like, you know what? Fucking
Why'd you come
just
here?
leave. Just leave. Like,
go back to Alabama to die, you fuck.
Exactly.
Well, that's it. I love the complaint too, because it's, you know, at the college we get this from the students sometimes, but I'm always like, who the fuck do you think I am?
Yeah.
Like, do you think that I'm the State Department of Health? Do you think I like? Why are you complaining to me about this? I don't give a shit. Like
at the beginning of it too, when they were actually first looking at King County, like you know what the plan was going to be for bars and restaurants to open up. One of the stipulations was that we were going to have to take people's information, their phone number, their address for contact tracing.
Hell yeah.
And I was like. No, that is absolutely not going to happen. And we like definitely haven't been fucking doing that. And now it's like we can't seat people of 5 unless they're in the same household. And do you know what's going to happen when, hey folks, like how you doing? Party of 5? Yeah. Are you all from the same household? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Like
well,
but
that's the theater that we're being asked to enact is just these bullshit little like dramas like that going through the ritual of asking people, are you all in the same household? And frankly, I'm probably waiting the 10 minutes for that sanitizer to work. Like, this is all just this bullshit that we're being asked to do that is not going to have a real effect. And that at the same time, Inslee himself is blaming the individual like, you know, it's your irresponsible personal behavior is what we're going to be able to blame you for when you're dead.
Well, it's just like the switching over your light bulbs or switching over like not using straws. It's capitalism putting the onus on the individual.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like go vegan. You know,
Yeah.
if you're not a vegan, you're the reason why all these animals like no, those corporations are still going to farm and slaughter
Yeah.
animals, even if I'm not eating meat. Like,
Yeah,
it's-
your like food choices aren't the reason why we have an inhumane
Right.
like system of harvesting food.
Not to mention that before
Yeah.
capitalism and corporate like food industry, like people were eating meat completely sustainably for
Yeah.
fucking millennia.
Well, and I think the thing too is, I mean, the theater is all about a theater of personal responsibility, right?
Yeah.
But you know, I want to sort of kind of come back to this point of like it puts the onus entirely on the owner of the business and then the people of the business. Which, when you're talking about like a bar, again, the bar's been eating fucking, you know, they're eating money basically for months because they haven't been open. And now you're gonna tell them like, okay, let people come in, but don't let like too many people come in. And if you're the bar owner, like, it's gonna be hard to be like, I gotta turn these people away. They're being jerks, or like they don't want to do the thing, or whatever. But it's like, but you're also losing money, man. Like, so you know,
Yeah.
all the incentive is for you to bend the rules,
Right.
right? And then for the service worker, like you were saying, I mean, if there's people in there, that's how you get tips. And that's where your money comes from. So again, like all the incentive is for the people who've been, I think, unfairly tasked with having to enforce this regime. All the incentive is for them to look the other way, right? And to not do it, right? And then in the end, when of course it doesn't fucking work and it blows up in everybody's face, we'll just raise our hands up and go, oh, personal responsibility, man.
Yeah.
People just gotta make better choices. And I mean, that's just neoliberalism in a nutshell, right? I mean, it's so fucking awful.
It's I having to say, oh my God, thank you for coming. Like, enjoy your stay. Like, I
Yeah.
hope you enjoy Seattle. Like, I'm screaming on the inside all day. Like
It is
yes.
insane
If
that
the
you have so many
emotion,
tourists.
if the emotional labor of the service industry wasn't a thing before, like it is now 100 times more. And then these people are coming out and having the audacity to like not tip 20%. Like
Yeah.
that should be like, how fucking dare you? Like,
Yeah.
no, like you're gonna come out here flapping your COVID lips in my restaurant. I'm grabbing your forks. I'm grabbing your plates. I'm grabbing your fucking glassware. Like, which is the main point of contact for this fucking virus.
Yeah.
And you're gonna tip me 10% on a $100 bill? Like,
Yeah.
no, go fuck yourself. Like, and you know, in India they had those stamps, right? The ink that lasted 14 days for the quarantine. So if you came in and out of India or whatever, and they would stamp your hand, and they had people trying to ignore that, but they couldn't because everybody would see that stamp and be like, hey, motherfucker, like, you got
Yeah.
that fucking stamp on your hand. Like, get out of
yeah.
here. There was that plane that, like, didn't take off or whatever because there was this couple that was on there and they
Yeah.
had the stamp on their hand and they were just like, oh, well, like, what's the big deal? Blah, blah. And the plane was like, no, fuck you. Get the fuck off this plane. Like,
It's like, nah, man, we're just at the club.
exactly. And we don't have anything like that. And Inslee's like mask up rule, which is like it's just absolutely delicious. It's like the expansion will require face coverings in all common spaces such as elevators, hallways, and shared spaces in apartment buildings, university housing, and hotels, as well as congregate settings such as nursing home. Like, unless you have a sentry that's standing in every single apartment hallway, in every single elevator, it's not going to happen.
Or a culture-wide like blitz of information from the beginning from all levels of authority and cultural importance saying the same message and that wasn't completely contradictory with it, because you can't take that serious. Forget the fact that isn't on every billboard, that there isn't like a helpful like person like and place you can, you know, understand like on every radio broadcast and news channel, whatever, and like people at the grocery store with very clear instructions for you what to do, people handing out the masks from the very beginning. Short of all that, like even if they were doing that now, that doesn't compute when bars and restaurants are open for you to go to at 50% capacity. Even like you can't take this shit seriously because clearly they aren't. The government isn't. Capital isn't.
Well, you had the sheriff over in what it was like. I want to say it was like Lawrence County or something like that over in Washington.
The sheriff in Snohomish was the one who wasn't going to enforce them.
Yeah,
there's been a lot of sheriffs.
Yeah,
who've
who
done that.
came
We're not
out
gonna
and
do
like
the
did a press
mask
conference and like,
thing.
we're not gonna cover
Yeah.
our faces with
Yeah.
these masks. Like, fuck Inslee. Like, nah, you don't have to comply.
Yeah.
Like, so what you're saying, Greg, is that we needed a centralized, countrywide response,
Yeah.
and not different different state governors reacting at different times.
Even within the state, you could have
different-
done so much more than in.
Well, yeah. Well, even I
Oh.
mean, like even the county to county movement. It's like, okay, people in this county are still shut down, so I'm just going to go over and I'm going to go hang out in this county, which happened actually in Southern California. One of these breweries, this brewery in Ventura, I think it was, and they had opened up, and they got flooded. They got flooded with people from the surrounding counties that
Yeah.
were still shut down, and they were just like, "Fuck this." They were like, no, now from now on, our weekends are like, you have to be a local. You have to prove your residency in Ventura County. Otherwise, we're not going to serve you. And their comment section was just like, oh, you fucking like Nazi fucking, like you can't enforce that. Like, blah, blah, blah.
Well, and
like,
again, too, imagine working at that fucking bar with
yeah.
that kind of rule that you're supposed to be enforcing.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, that's
like
insane.
And okay, so we can't like you can't sit inside a restaurant in groups larger than 5. But that's not stopping people from rolling out in groups that are larger than that.
Sure.
That stops at the threshold of my restaurant. Because now I'm going to break you up.
Yeah.
And now
Yeah.
you are not going to be in this fight for as long as you're in this restaurant. We had a group of 20.
Yeah.
We had a group of 20 people come out, roll out together.
Yeah.
And we're like, okay, well, you're going to be at 4 different fucking tables.
Yeah.
And then you get like people just ordering like all kinds of stuff, and then they're moving in between tables and like not putting a
Right,
mask
because
on
it's
because
down to you
Yes.
at that end point, this one point.
Yep.
Instead of a culture-wide understanding that everyone actually has faith in and believes is important and has the information. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, you know, for your tourist or this tourist that drive me crazy. For your tourist or whatever that's at the fucking bar, right? If it was serious, then they wouldn't be allowed to be like traveling the
Right.
country
No.
going to
No,
fucking restaurants.
which
right?
Mayor
Yeah.
Bowser in DC,
Yeah.
like they implemented like a 14-day quarantine or whatever like that. If you go travel and you come home, you have to quarantine for 14 days. And I'm like, okay, that's another thing that rests on the fucking employer. Like maybe your employer knows that you went out of town. And if they're an employer that, you know, they actually fucking care about you. You're not like a fucking McDonald's manager who's like, I don't give a fuck, get back to fucking work or you lose your fucking job. You know, if they're like, oh, I know that you went out of town, so you can't come to work for the next 14 days. Guess who's going out to fucking bars and restaurants in those 14 days?
Yeah.
That same fucking person.
Or, you know, like, how are you going to compensate? I mean, this is a thing of why I remember when this whole thing started. We'd sort of joked a little bit on the podcast or whatever, and I was like, I hope it's not very contagious because we're going to be fucking filling stadiums. Because at every single level, the American system is uniquely positioned to be unable to handle this,
Yes.
right? So, like, yeah, in the case of if you tried to have some sort of travel quarantine thing, well, who's going to pay for that person to be quarantined for 14 days? Because nobody in America can go 2 weeks without
Right.
being evicted,
Right.
without, you know, losing their shit, right? At the same time, too, like our, you know, federal system, as we just talked about, like when you have a pandemic, you need an actual central actor in response,
Right.
and our federal system is uniquely positioned to prohibit that from happening,
Which
and to
blows
make
my
sure
mind.
it doesn't work.
Because,
You know?
like, Trump, like, you know, being a leftist and wanting to see the end of American culture as desperately as, like, you know, just a blot on human society, American culture has been in Western
I gotta
conservatism.
tell ya, Marina,
Like-
you're
Hot
young enough.
take.
I think
Yeah.
you might get to see it.
I mean, I hope so. And, like, you know, God bless Trump for destroying America. Like, he's doing it. He's doing everything, you know, all of those boogeymen in the Middle East that we've all been raised to, like, think that are going to come over here and
Yeah.
start blowing us up and all this kind of stuff. No, he's actively doing it. He is bringing down, like, he's bringing the system to its fucking knees.
Well, I think it made, I think he just took
To
the,
America.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he took the sort of sheen of paint off it, right?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you know, you get those people online or whatever that's like, you know, if Hillary were elected, we'd be out of this by now.
No.
But the thing is all the unique things that make America incapable of taking care of this
Yeah.
existed before Trump and are going to exist after
Yep.
him, right? Which is a healthcare system that doesn't function,
Mm-hmm.
right? You know, an employment system where workers have no fucking safety net, and
your
are
healthcare
always-
is tied to your
your
fucking
healthcare's tied to
employment.
your fucking employment. You know, I mean, we literally have a Democratic Party that just, you know, the Democratic National Committee just voted overwhelmingly
No.
for Joe Biden's platform that that they're basically going to run on 50 million people without health care.
Yeah.
Like, that's their platform, you know? I mean, that's fucking astonishing in the middle of a plague. I mean, you know, it is this astonishing systemic crisis where COVID is just revealing every ugly layer of
Yeah.
the American
Yeah.
state and American capitalism, just piece by piece by piece. And Of course, I mean, for some people, it is, it's going to fill them with existential dread. For others, it's just going to make them lose their fucking minds and either pretend it's not happening at all because it's just too much to fucking interpret.
Yeah, their brains cannot literally process this.
Or retreat into insane conspiracy theories because they need some sort of explanation, and there hasn't been one on the left for decades that anybody can get a hold of. So I guess it's Bill Gates' lab or some shit.
I had a
Chinese labs or whatever.
I had a table who was like, it was like the end of service or whatever, and they were like, whatever. They were just people. They were people. They weren't like outright assholes. So whatever. I'm just going through like doing the song and dance, right? And as he's closing out, and he like mentions like, oh yeah, this like Obama like Wuhan virus, and I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah, didn't you know Obama funded the Wuhan University to like manufacture this virus and release it? And I just laughed. I just fucking laughed. And he did my favorite right-wing talking point. Look it up.
Oh yeah.
Look it up. Look it up.
The appropriate answer, whenever they say, didn't you know, the appropriate answer is always, no, I didn't. Tell me more.
Right. Right.
Get the chalkboard out.
Yeah.
I'm ready.
Show me. Tell me everything.
Like I'm bringing, I need to know it all. How deep does it go?
Which is like another thing with Trump, like Mr. Buddy Buddy with like Kim Jong, like, right, and loves Putin, all this kind of stuff. The people like Putin, who's about to install himself to be the fucking, like, to die as like the fucking king of Russia, right? Like,
when you're the richest man.
Right? And he plays that he wants to be this like authoritarian dictator so bad, and this was his chance. Like this was like his brass ring to be able to just let you. The whole time he wants to shut down the borders. This would have been the time. Like,
no, it's crazy. It's so crazy. Like that is such a good fucking point, because if he was everything that libs wanted to convince themselves that he was, to just, to sort of relieve themselves from the burden of having gotten him elected by running the worst campaign that's ever been fucking run.
Right.
If he was all those things, yeah, he would be.
It'd be martial law.
He would be running fucking wild right now.
Yeah.
Well, but he's actually just a big, dumb, wet idiot.
They would be applauding him for it too, because they'd been like, "Oh, he saved us. Yeah. He saved us. He kept us safe from this pandemic," and which proves that he's not a lawful evil. He's a fucking chaotic evil, which is worse. He went the complete opposite direction, and I was like, when this thing came out, I was like, "Oh, we're about to fucking be like locked in our houses."
Said, you know what? We need to listen to the scientists. We need to get out ahead of this, and that's going to involve
nobody leaves their
martial law
house
in cities and closing the borders.
The liberals
would have been
gone,
fucking all over it.
Totally would have gone for it.
What? Because as we've seen, look. So this is a great segue to the remainder of our show here, talking about exactly that. The minor examples of federal martial law. I guess narrowly avoided in Seattle. I mean,
although who knows?
Well, it's come out today that the governor. This is So just think back to the images you've seen of waves of wafting tear gas again throughout Capitol Hill and Seattle. Maybe you were there and had, while standing in a dense crowd rounding the corner at 12th and Pike, 12th and Pine. Fuck, can't believe I'm mixing that up.
Oh my god, and for a local too.
I know.
Over by the was it Blick? Is that the Blick on Pine and Broadway?
That's Pine and Broadway.
That whole area.
At the rounding the cop shop, the East Precinct, getting flashbangs just tossed from overhead, from on top of buildings down into a crowd, exploding around you, and absolutely wilding out by SPD and their buddies in Bellevue PD who just wanted a taste, I guess.
Yeah, and it looked like maybe King County Sheriff's Department as well. Yeah,
cool. Everyone wanted to get in on the action. It was field trip day.
Yeah. Summer camp for cops.
Yeah. And then this is Jenny Durkin talking about Portland on MSNBC. It looks like this president is doing a dress rehearsal for martial law, sending in federal forces to take over police duties in city after city for political purposes. It's frightening, and it's making things worse. It has not improved public safety. I mean, what the fuck?
She also said that she was going to talk to the feds and assured everybody that the same black bagging that was happening in Portland would not happen here.
Yeah, because it'd be SPD officers doing it. Listen.
Well, you say that though, but apparently they have secured this for one reason or another. supposedly, like, there was all the reports of the feds getting off the plane at King County Airport. And now Inslee and Durkin, they've released a joint press release saying that they have vanquished Trump and sent Bill Barr and his goons packing back to D.C. They're saying, they really, stood up. Everybody got together. This, and then they're saying, this is from their joint press statement. The demobilization means Washingtonians no longer have to worry about the White House's aim to provoke confrontation and undermine peaceful protests, Inslee said. Those peacefully protesting have raised the public's consciousness of the urgent need for racial justice, and I have no doubt they will continue to use their voices to call for action. We must continue making progress toward a better and more just Washington for everyone. This is the Jay Inslee who called out the National Guard the minute the SPD first rioted at the end of May.
Also, like a day after Trump said that he should, went on Twitter and was like, "Hey, you should call it the National Guard."
Well, you saw Chicago Mayor's Lightfoot, right? How she came out and was like, under no circumstances am I going to allow Trump's federal officers here. And then 2 days later, he calls her and she lets him fucking into the city.
Yeah.
Well, and I think the main thing that we're seeing here too with the sort of Jenny Durkin's quote on MSNBC and with Joe Biden's apparently release that he had today about this is we're seeing the merry-go-round here right now between the Republican and Democratic Party, which is, she's like, oh, Donald
the
Trump's...
dialectic, if you will.
Donald Trump's not going to have his... this is the, in dialect, is the struggle of appearance versus essence, right? Yeah. Donald Trump's, he's not going to have his DHS, thugs in here black bagging people and attacking people and things like that, because SPD is already doing that so well and to such an extent. And it's one of these things of like, if I'm down at a protest, I don't care if it's a DHS guy, a Border Patrol guy, an SPD guy, a King County guy, or a Bellevue guy. I don't care who's throwing the flashbangs from the top of the building at me, right? I care that they're throwing them. Like, again, cop is a cop. I don't give a shit what department they came out of, right?
Yeah.
But I guess this is the thing that we're supposed to buy here is that it's okay because the guy black bagging you or the guy fucking beating the shit out of you, don't worry, he's a local boy.
Which are not even local, which as we've we've all fucking know that SPD is not local, which I mean
But also who gives a shit?
Exactly. And when people who were freaking out about, the snatching of the protesters, when it started happening in Portland, I was like, a lot of people had to be like, why are you surprised? And two, why are you freaking out? Most people who were freaking out, I was like, they're not going to come for you. Like, chill the fuck out. Like, you have nothing on you. Like, unless you're the czar of Antifa, which I know that you're not.
How does she know that?
Right,
I wonder.
exactly. Which I know that you're not.
If you want to know who the czar of Antifa is, I know who to talk to.
The hockey czar. I am the hockey god of Antifa. But I was like, okay, like this thing has been happening. Like this style of intimidation and tactic has been being used by to infiltrate large movements, specifically civil rights movements for decades. Like this happens in foreign policy to destabilize governments all the fucking time and enact coups. And also and people are like, yeah, but it's so brazen. And I'm like, brazen because it's happening to non-brown people. Like ICE rolls up on workplaces all the fucking time. Yeah. Like there are ICE raids all the fucking time. And they just fucking go in, they load up 20, 30 fucking people, and then kids go home and their parents are fucking gone. Yeah. Like it's nothing new.
Well, and the big one is the standoff at Standing Rock over the pipeline in 2016, under fucking everybody's favorite president, President Obama, where he sent federal police forces to go work with county police forces, by the way, who were all being overseen by a mercenary group. And they basically all worked together to put down a social movement, right? And it's like, what we're seeing isn't a new thing that Trump's doing. What we're seeing is the absolute normalization of it, right? Yeah. This is going to be the fact going forward, no matter who's president, in a year.
For another, galling bit of sort of doublethink here, let me read from this same press statement. This is the quote from Dan Satterberg, King County prosecutor. We should all be outraged at the nightly specter we see in Portland of an unaccountable military force that answers only to the president using excessive force on moms, veterans, and citizens with a legitimate grievance against their government, Satterberg said. They made everything worse there, and they have no exit strategy. This is good news for Seattle, but let's not lose focus on Portland. He's meaning good news that we've made them leave. Everything in that except answers only to the president could just be applied, obviously, to SPD. Literally, Saturday, I was there. I marched on Saturday in solidarity with the Portland protesters who've been abused by Portland police and federal goons. And I saw people get just fucking absolutely bowled over by absolutely just an incredible amount of violence. And these people, these Democrats, have the gall to go up. I mean, forget talking about like what would be happening if Hillary was president. I mean, Jesus, like we know this. We know that's Jenny Durkin was Obama administration prosecutor. Like, if anything, what the Democrats saw right away a perfect opportunity to do what they've been looking to do since this all started, which was co-opt and neutralize it, right? And by Trump jumping into this with federal agents, that gave them this perfect opportunity to position themselves on the side of protesters in the only way that they are willing to do, which is in this nakedly political, really obvious, nakedly political anti-Trump move, to position themselves. And yeah, because of the most like flagrant like constitutional violations by the federal government that, of course, their own police forces are doing every day. Yeah. But what this makes me think of is that, I mean, of course, and this has been true since Trump, became president. Everyone worries, like, is this fascism? Are we moving toward fascism? And like, is that what this is? The federal troops in Portland, and I guess narrowly avoided in Seattle because they're completely not needed. I mean, it seems to me like SPD like brought in their friends from around the county just to show Daddy in the White House that it's cool. We don't need help here. We got this one. And, they satisfied him, I guess. But the question is, like, we've had this debate, like, is this fascism? We're going toward fascism. What is fascism? And, there's there's lots of different definitions.
Ask Trotsky, what is fascism and how to fight it?
Ooh. Well, my answer is this is a fascist country, and it has been for a long time.
Yes.
One of the sort of, you can choose from theories on fascism, nascent fascism in America, and one of them is that this has been a fascist country since
Inception.
the Second World War. We, with our massive, military-industrial complex and, our apartheid systems and et cetera. And I think something that gets hung up on, that people get hung up on with that argument, that has become more clear to me. I've been wishy-washy on that for a long time, like, because you can see there's different ways to look at it, and ultimately the answer usually comes back if you get in these discussions. Well, maybe fascism is a thing that was situated in time. That of course it's not going to be a one-to-one corollary here, and so you're going to miss some pieces of it. And so one critique that comes up of this idea that we're just a fascist country is that we don't have the kind of right-wing mass politics that defined European fascism in the early 20th century. And that, is one that I've previously been able to concede and say, yeah, okay, so it's not one-to-one, so it's a little of everything. You can't answer this question. And this whole movement in the streets against the cops has made me start to think that actually we do have that. Obviously, we have, like, these small right-wing militias that have showed up at places. That's not even what I'm talking about. And obviously we have, online boomer-like psychos who are very right-wing. We have the Q people. But that doesn't really... None of this qualifies as the kind of mass politics needed to have a mass hyper-right-wing social base that then can generate the devices of fascism, like, for example, like, can generate a paramilitary force that can then be the arm of a fascist movement, the violent arm that can then coordinate with the state. as is, happened in Italy and Germany. And I think the better way to look at it is that we actually do have that. We've had, mass nationalist right-wing politics. That's what we have had. We have had that all this time, and it's been accelerating ever since the Second World War. It's reached this point with Trump through Reagan through onto this point. That's just the right of America is as deranged and as committed, as right-wing, and as insane as any fucking group of, Nazi loyalists in Germany. And when you say, but they're not in the streets in a way, and they aren't generating a paramilitary force like, say, the brown shirts, and I think they have that. Cops, the expansion of the police state in the form of local cops that have a unified ideology, that see themselves, their position politically as unified. They're obviously extremely right-wing and violent, and I think we have that. We have that. It hasn't been as centralized as that's a difference from the early 20th century fascist parties, but we have a decentralized right-wing and nationalist insanity in this country that has generated directly this expansion of local police forces into fully militarized enforcers that is staffed then and grown with the most brutal right-wing psychopaths in our society.
Yeah. Well, let me throw out a question to you guys that I saw on Twitter. So Goldie on Twitter had posted this thing 5 days ago, before the federal troops were supposed to have left, which he said, if, DHS cops are here, and if SPD cops are here and they're sort of working together, and the mayor told SPD to stop working with DHS and to do whatever, and DHS was like, no, you guys come with us, and go tear gas everybody in the street, do you think the SPD would do it? And now, I don't want you to answer that question. What I want you to answer is, how many seconds in your brain did it take you to say, well, obviously?
0.003.
I think to what you're saying, Greg, that's the answer, right? Is that nobody legitimately thinks that particularly at the local level, that there's anything other than nominal control over the police, right? The police will do what they want.
Yeah, there is no control. Like you guys said in your other episode, that Jenny Durkin came out and basically said that she has zero control over her, because she was trying to divest responsibility of their actions from herself, and came out and was like, I don't have any, they actually don't listen to me, or I'm not
That's what she's given as her personal defense, and I think for a lot of reasons we should probably believe her.
One of my friends actually sent me this really funny comic by, I think it was God, what's the name of this account on Instagram? It's the South Seattle Emerald. Have you guys followed it? Yeah. And it's
good paper.
It's the comic about Jenny Durkin, and she's like, who controls the police? That's a good question. And she's talking about philosophers once thought that the behavior was governed by the four humors or bodily vapors, just all of just esoteric shit. And it's so absurd because it's fucking true.
On this exact subject, this is what she had to say in this joint press release. The president's actions, this is Jenny Durkin now, the president's actions to target and dominate democratic cities through the use of federal forces is chilling. It has increased violence in Portland, Seattle, and other cities across the country, which she's intending to say, has increased violence by protesters. Mm-hmm. It's true that it's increased violence, but it's all by the cops, which is what the president intended. That she's correct. I think this is largely a campaign stunt for Trump. Policing, but then she says, policing decisions in Seattle should be made by Chief Best, not Donald Trump. And we can rest assured that they will be, Durkin said. So she's saying the police department should make its own decisions, its own policy, take its own orders, and the city has nothing to do with it.
Yeah. Well, that, and it's
and she's positioning Trump in between there.
Trump shouldn't make these decisions. That organization that is his biggest cheerleader and largest voting bloc should make them.
Yeah.
But this is.
What do you want to bet Carmen Best voted for Trump?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah,
Like, not even a
absolutely.
question. There's literally two options if they're a cop, which is they either vote for Trump or they didn't vote.
Yeah.
Like, those are the two things. And they didn't vote. It's literally just for the same reason no American votes, because
Yeah.
why bother? But, yeah, I mean, so, you know, what we're seeing, right, is that there's this institutional thing happening that people aren't quite, like, reckoning with, right, which is that you have these large structures that have grown, particularly in the post-war period, have grown extremely large, extremely powerful, that literally their sole function is to oppress the vast majority of the people in this country, right? Whether that's by beating the shit out of them, as the cops do, or by monitoring and surveilling them, by keeping them in cages, etc. And I think it's one of those things that we should probably be like a little serious and clear about, that you're not going to vote out of existence, because, you know, if we do cut SP's budget by 50%, I keep coming to this question: what do we do if SP says no?
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, you mean like the head tax?
Yeah, like when Jeff Bezos, when we passed the head tax, and Jeff Bezos said no.
No.
And so we had to revoke, we had to take it back,
Right.
right? What are you going to do when SPD
Just
says
kidding.
no?
Well-
What are you going to do when, you know, 500 armed psychopaths with tanks who are already in your city basically roll up and like, yeah, we're not going to do that,
And this
actually.
is your, this is your
You know?
point that you've been making over the last couple episodes, is that, like, if there is not a decisive victory in the streets by the people
Yeah.
to significantly just, like, take the kneecaps out of this institution, we are looking at an absolute reckoning,
Yeah. Oh,
which
yeah.
is going to be so fucking dangerous. I mean, the feds on Democracy Now! They said that the feds have talked to, like, the Seattle Times and all the other news reporters here, and they're forcing them to turn over footage from the end of the May riots, or
Yeah,
not the
federal
the
judge actually
Yeah, not the riots,
has
the-
ordered them to, yeah.
demonstrations. Yeah, and it just like, this is. It's do or die, and it's this fantastic paradox that you're getting with people like Mayor Jenny, who, like, who you said has zero constituency, because with the whole thing with the Chaz or the Chop, or what it was called, that because Trump started targeting it, and like Chris Tucker and all of them started targeting it, this active battle zone that they were waging against the demonstrators, then they had to come out and defend it
Yeah.
against Trump.
Yeah.
Which is this just absolute cartwheeling sort of like circus act of trying to defend their own positions
Yeah.
and positions of power, like self-preservation, while also, like, wreaking havoc on their own civilians.
Well, and also she's doing the classic sort of Brett Hamill joke or whatever, which is when she's talking to a national audience that's nothing to do with, it isn't Seattle. Trump's a bad guy. Having police running through the streets beating the shit out of people, that's bad.
Yeah, Brett Hamill's proximity loves Seattle politics.
But when she's in the city, all of a sudden it's like, yeah, fuck it, roll the tanks out. And I think it's one of those things too. Though, that's why when we say that I don't think she has control over the police, we also need to be absolutely clear. The police are doing everything she would want them to do.
Yes.
I just think that if she's suddenly got a wild hair up her ass and she didn't want them to do it, I don't know that she can stop them from doing it. And that's actually something that we have to
Well, I
consider.
think
on
what
some
we
level.
have seen is it's the possibility those moments have come.
Yeah.
And but they have come for optics, for PR
Yeah.
reasons. They're, Jenny Durkin loves seeing the protesters roughed up like this, but she also seems to feel that at times, like, maybe that's not the optics that she wants right now. And so we've seen at times the cops just totally pull back and not be seen for marches of tens of thousands of people. But yeah, listen, what is it? Is it next Monday, August 3rd, that that the city council is supposed to have its first vote on defunding the police?
I do believe so.
I thought they already, like, didn't they pass, like, a veto proof?
No. They just have one. Well, they have a veto-proof commitment.
Yeah,
People have made commitments.
So 7
We'll see.
of the 9 have sort of publicly said they are in favor of this generally. Now, what that means when they come to actually, amend whatever bill, and then amendment process, and then how they vote, we'll see. But what you gotta be ready for, we've said this now for 2 months, everyone has to be at City Hall that day. Because the cops have already been saying no to this.
Yeah.
But they've been saying it to protesters in the streets. If the city council looks like they're really going to defund SPD by 50%, which they are planning to. They all say they're planning to do on Monday, on the 3rd, I believe. The Seattle Police Department, you may find, you may show up to say no to them, to the council, and that could be extremely ugly.
Well, the council doesn't have any dogs to sick on the police. That's the
No, they don't.
Yeah.
No,
Well,
all they have is the movement that is pushing them to do this in the first place.
Well, I mean, and this was the thing that sort of Goldie was sort of getting at with this tweet, which was that when DHS and the police get together, all you're really doing is asking nicely and hoping that they take you into consideration, right? This is the system we've created. There's no fucking balance, right? In the sense that, like, if the police say no, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
You know? I mean...
That's that fucking, like, 2A come and take them kind of fucking mentality that you got regular, you know?
Yeah, and I mean, you know, that same mentality they've had jammed into their head the entire time they've been, you know, cops. Yeah, and I mean, the thing is, you know, not to put it into the air or whatever, but put a fucking human wall around Sean Swan.
Absolutely.
Before this is over, I mean, it's this
yeah.
winter that we're staring at with COVID and with the lack of funding from the government and with the unemployment rate and with the eviction rate that we're looking at and with these continued sustained demonstrations, like this winter, there will absolutely be blood. There is going to be absolutely more blood in the streets.
With the evictions,
yeah, I mean, cops have killed political officials over less.
Yeah.
So,
absolutely.
You
Listen,
know,
the
I think it's
council
those things
should-
you have to start you have to start taking them seriously over, you know, as what they are. You know, you say there are fascists in the streets, you need to take that seriously.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The council should show up at 3 a.m. that day and lock the fucking doors behind them.
Yeah.
And they're like, I mean, we're going to literally have to be at City Hall. I imagine someone is going to plan something like that to encourage people to be there. I'll be there regardless.
Yeah.
Because, oh God, they're not going to like do it early in the morning, are they?
You might have to get up
I
early.
hate early.
Because really, like, these things really do happen.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean,
this will be if they do this, if they pass a serious bill that actually, whatever the terms and amendments of the bill, if they actually pass an actual funding cut of 50% or even close to it, this will be world news.
Oh yeah.
Global news. This will be an earth-shattering fucking event, and it will only be because of these continued uprisings. But the cops know that. Every cop in the country will be looking at SPD. SPD will be hearing from every cop in the country. Not that they'll need to, but that it is up to them to stop the fucking tide.
Yeah.
To stop this from happening.
And you know who else we're going to see there too? Is we're going to see a lot of those boogaloo out there as well.
Yeah, I'm sure. Like, you know, who knows? Who knows? Right? Any kind of, you know, the cops, a bunch of off-duty cops and their wives like tried to have a rally in support of cops like 3 weeks ago in front of City Hall, and it was like 25 people for 2 hours. Like, they clearly all have cop face. You know.
Imagine being a cop's wife.
Oh my God!
During this time,
you know, it can't be easy for them. You know?
My mom was one.
Yeah. It is, you know, one of the darker sides when you study police interactions and stuff online is you learn that there's actually like large national and local support groups for cops' wives, and it's basically like it's like an abuse network essentially.
Yeah.
So, you know, cool.
Like, I honestly, you know, I mean, I'm like, Mom, why? And she was like, you know, I was young. Blah blah blah, and like, the whole it was the military to the police pipeline.
Yeah.
Well, the whole
went
country
there.
is asking itself that question now.
Yeah.
Why? Why do we let these people in our lives? And it's astonishing, but Seattle may be the city that does something. Now, who knows? They could also, between now and then, what is this, Tuesday?
Yeah.
There's a week between now and then, they could find a way to whatever bill they do, because I don't think they have dropped a draft legislation yet.
No, they're gonna do it in the amended budget, right? So that'll be the
That's
shot
right, yeah.
fired on Monday. Is they'll go into the amended budget and basically be like, "Yep, we're gutting the police."
Yeah.
Yeah.
So so we haven't seen that those draft amendments yet.
Yeah.
And then, of course, it's the amendment process to the whole. It'll be the whole thing is an amendment process. So what comes out on the other end, God only knows.
Yeah.
What they'll back down from. But I guess that's what I'm saying. I think everyone knows the pressure has to be kept up between now and then to show that this movement is still strong, that these uprisings are still in the street, to put pressure on the council. But like day of, that is needed, obviously. But also just like human shield for the council.
Yeah. I mean, go down there on Monday because the council, some of the council members are going to need their backs stiffened a little bit by people being there. And look at it like this: best case scenario, you're going to be there on the ground at a nationally historic event. All right.
Yeah.
Worst case scenario, we might need some people down there. we might need some bodies to fend off SPD. So
Yeah.
Well, with
either way, we need people.
With the rollback of the breweries and taverns, the rollback of them, there are going to be more people that are available, which is, I'm a firm believer why we even opened up in the first place, was to completely drain the movement.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And the
Didn't
reason
work.
why there's pushing for sports to come back too is because right now is playoff season, would be playoff season for a couple sports.
Yeah.
And
Well, I
we
mean,
don't have that distraction right now.
Well, just like this disease, exposed like every rotten layer of sort of institutional American capitalism, it also just brought so many pieces together at exactly the right time.
Yeah.
You can't just keep killing people
that's why
and get away with it.
It's a fucking science.
Yeah.
Like, this is calculable, from decades before.
Yeah, I mean,
You know?
it's one of those things. I mean, you treat people really awfully over and over again. They have a tendency to blow up until the tech industry gets the automatons they want. They're gonna have to live in fear of the pitchforks.
And we're not even doing the things that fucking they used to do back in the old labor movement back in the day, when they would go to their boss's house and drag them out and beat the shit out of them in front of
The
the
IWW in the Pacific Northwest, they used to have this thing that whenever a cop would kill somebody in the labor movement, they put signs up all over town that said, for every laborer that gets killed by the police, we're going to kill 2 cops. And then they would shoot 2 cops if the cops shot somebody. And you know what kept the cops from shooting fucking guys in the labor movement? The fact that they kept getting shot by fucking...
Yeah. Well, nowadays we just have them shooting themselves, and shooting each other. So
Yeah, well, hopefully it doesn't come to that.
Maybe that Bothell cop is like some secret
maybe he's a
Maoist.
secret. Yeah, and he's just like, oh, this is my chance. Ba 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 ba.
Well,
Yeah.
it could potentially go to a much darker place. I mean,
It will. It will.
I think, look, this has been a radical movement in this town from, it's not pulling bosses out of the house and beating them, but people have marched on the mayor and the city council's houses. And in the sort of most provocative demonstration so far, I've read in the newspaper that in the vicinity of the march on Saturday, somewhere someone allegedly set fire to a construction trailer at the dirt pit site of the new youth jail construction, which I think is a very poignant demonstration.
Yeah.
And listen, stay in the streets. That's the point. I just want to end on something, just a little tidbit. Just for all we talk about all this, just know there are forces out there still trying to convince Seattle not to do this. And this appeared, I'm just going to read the first paragraph from from our old friend Tim Burgess. Tim Burgess, a man with a past.
Yeah, his past is so sketchy. Even Wikipedia tried to scrub it off their Wikipedia page.
Yeah. So in Crosscut, Seattle police respond too slowly. A 50% cut will make it worse. Already, he's off. It's a great start with this headline. Going to make it about some tiny, totally. We want police to not respond at all.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, but what if they come even slower than they do now. Let's transform Seattle Police Department by addressing both racial injustice and the enduring need for fair and effective policing. Bullshit. Okay, the first paragraph. I think you're going to like this. In Paris and Prague, police officers give a formal hand salute to people they stop. It's meant as a gesture of respect, a way to both honor the people they serve and to signal that their encounter will be dignified and professional. We need such a salute right now in the city of Seattle, where protests, violence, and disruption have coursed through the community since May 25th. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the counter argument.
Mm-hmm.
What we need in Seattle is
Special wave.
a special little wave.
He wants a Heil.
We need, I mean, basically,
Well-
if you just really break down that, he's just saying they should actually just announce themselves with a Heil Tim.
Yeah.
But
Also, good advice, Tim. Paris, famously free of protests. So
yeah,
Oh man, when they
And
joined
famous-
in and they just like took it to an 11 because they're like, oh yeah, you're trying to like, let's flex. We're Paris. Like my favorite one is when they took the shit to the parliament. They took the shit truck to the parliament and they just sprayed the side of parliament with shit. Like during the yellow vest, that fucking shit.
no. Well, I mean, Tim would probably never. This would never occur to him. But it's like maybe in Paris, the police have a little special hello to the people because they're actually afraid of the people of Paris.
They are. Well,
Whereas in Seattle, the police hold us in utmost contempt and
Yes,
have no fear.
they
of us
absolutely. They have. I think they're like not armed or something like that. But there's those videos of the police in Paris, not very long ago, and they're like scary little piggies.
Yeah.
And the fucking some guy like throws a razor scooter at one of them, like just like hammer throws this fucking like metal razor scooter at one of them and just clocks one of the police. It's the greatest thing ever.
that rules. We should thank our newest patrons. We've got Michael, Lakin, and Cassidy. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Marena, our
Thank you.
our Kraken correspondent. We look forward to many future updates on the Kraken and as whenever their first season starts in 2030 or whatever it is.
Everybody wear your masks so I can go back to the fucking Beaver and go back to watching my hockey. Like I'm so tired of not having hockey.
Well, you keep us updated on the field goals and 3-pointers that the Kraken will surely be scoring
The home runs.
in the coming hockey season.
Yes, I will.
Cool.
Fourth period heroics.
Thank you for having me again. Always a
for
pleasure.
coming.
Always a pleasure.
Thanks for coming. Thanks for the beer. Oh,
Of course.
and thank you to the Sheree campaign for the Sheree branded hand sanitizer, which I imagine must have come from the Aurora factory that Sheree and her friends built, which is cool. And we got some posters I'm gonna put up.
We're
too.
currently completely covered in this.
We are slathered in this stuff for safety, for podcaster safety. It took me a while to figure out how to open it, but I figured it out. If you've had one of these bottles, you know what I'm talking about. It's like toddler proof or something. Okay. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.